JP Mandel has done it again. You know, I've spent all day researching for videos and recording for videos, and I just sat down to hang out for a bit. And when I opened Twitter, I saw trending #1, JD Vance teacher comments. And I immediately went, oh God, what did JD Vance say about teachers this time? Does he think that they should all be thrown in a wood chipper? Does he think that they should be paid less? He had to have said something wild, but what he said was beyond my wildest imagination. So I immediately sat down and thought, let's make a video about this, because while these comments came out, JD Vance was giving a speech. Take a look at this clip.
Like I said, we've got some great leadership, like Mike Rogers, who are helping us in this fight. We've also got Chairman Pete Hoekstra, who will help turn Michigan red. Where's Pete at?
I just want to point out, Pete Hoekstra is a Project 2025 author, one of the many Project 2025 authors that will be a part of the Trump administration. I mean, the overlap between Trump's first administration and the authors of Project 2025 is about 84%. It is an 84% overlap. Here's another clip of JD Vance giving a speech in Big Rapids, Michigan. He says, while Donald Trump is a people's president, Kamala Harris is running on fake joy. I'll break it down in a second.
So, while Donald Trump is the people's president and Kamala Harris is running on a fake joy, Donald Trump is going to offer something very, very different. He's going to offer a very real hope for the future of this country.
That's original. That's real original. Where did you come up with hope from? Did you just come up with that on the spot, JD Vance? It's almost like you stole that from Democrats. It's almost like that's our entire campaign slogan. But when he said Donald Trump is going to run on something unique, I thought he was going to say narcissism and lies and election denial for a second.
Hope that we can reignite our economy and bring back prosperity. Hope that we can raise our kids in secure neighborhoods with safe borders. Hope that we can renew the patriotism that binds us together as one.
I mean, it's just so easy to debunk all of this. If you wanted safe borders, Donald Trump wouldn't have shot down the bill that Langford introduced in the Senate. Also, if you wanted our kids to be safe, you would make sure that there are common sense gun control laws. As JoJo from Juris points out, Donald Trump left office with one of the worst economic legacies in our history, and all he ever says now is how much we suck, how much our country sucks. Donald Trump is a pessimist, not a patriot. Everything JD Vance says is so easily debunkable. I'll show you the leaked clip in 1 second, but here's another clip from Big Rapids.
Our border, my friends, our border was secure. Overdose deaths were coming down where they had gone up for 15 years. And a lot of people who struggled in my hometown had good jobs and good prosperity, and it happened all across the state of Michigan and Ohio.
Again, this is a lie. JD Vance says that overdose deaths were coming down, but I have an article saying fatal overdoses climbed to record highs in 2019, reversing historic progress. And of course, Donald Trump was the president in 2019. The mainstream media does not do fact checks that are this arduous. We make sure to fact check everything JD Vance says so that when something disgusting comes out like this, we know not to give him any charitability. This is an audio clip of JD Vance saying that teachers who do not have biological children disorient and disturb him. Just listen.
And I think our conservative idea is that parents and families should determine what children learn, what values they are brought up with. You know, so many of the leaders of the left, and I hate to be so personal about this, but they're people without kids trying to brainwash the minds of our children. And that really disorients me and it really disturbs me. Randy Weingarten, who's the head of the most powerful teachers union in the country, she doesn't have a single child. If she wants to brainwash and destroy the minds of children, she should have some of her own and leave ours the hell alone.
Again, this is very consistent with what JD Vance has said time and time again about women or about people who don't have children not having as much of a say. And I just want to say this also undermines other things JD Vance has said in the past. So he has said before that it's not personal. It's not a personal thing. But in this very clip, he says, I hate to be so personal about this.
I hate to be so personal about this, but there are people without...
He just said, I hate to be so personal about this. Then he gets incredibly personal. So anytime JD Vance says he's not trying to get personal, that is a complete lie. But again, the hatred and animosity that JD Vance has for people who have yet to have children or for people who just can't have children for one reason or another is absolutely sickening.
Now, I will confess that in some ways I have a soft heart, ladies and gentlemen. In some ways I feel bad for Kamala Harris. They don't. You don't. But I'm not sure that this is a woman who knows what she actually believes.
That is rich coming from the man who once said that Donald Trump is America's Hitler and now is his most ardent supporter. That is rich coming from the man who went to an elite university that now rails against those very elite universities. I mean, here are some examples of what J.D. Vance has said about Trump in the past. Quote, he might be America's Hitler. Quote, he might be a cynical asshole. He's cultural heroin. He's noxious and reprehensible. The wild thing about J.D. Vance is he used to have a certain level of self-awareness that he has completely lost, and now he just lies. Now he has this Trumpian way of going on where we can go through every single one of his clips and everything he says is a lie. That is why I'm so excited to hear him debate Tim Walz. Here's a clip of him talking about Tim Walz.
He calls me weird, but then he lies about how his kids were conceived. Who does that? That's just the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Why is J.D. Vance so concerned with how Tim Walz's kids were conceived and where there's no proof that Tim Walz is lying at all? J.D. Vance's entire shtick is just undermining other people's lived experiences, whether they are a teacher, whether they are a woman with infertility issues, whether they are Tim Walz serving in the military. All he does is undermine other people's lived experiences, and that is how MAGA trolls function. Here are people chanting, "Lock him up," about Tim Walz. It's just disgusting, a disgusting escalation of rhetoric.
Walz, Kamala Harris not only chooses to stand by this man because in spite of his dishonesty, she actually chose him to become her vice president to begin with.
Because he's awesome.
Now, while we're on the subject of their convention, she said something else at her convention. She said, and I don't know if you paid attention here, she said there are going to be extremely serious consequences for voting for Donald Trump. Now, Kamala, I've got two responses to that. First of all, that is not a very presidential thing to say. Is she the vice president or the vice principal? Warning about very serious consequences.
Good one, J.D. Vance. Donald Trump is the one who can't go 1 second without throwing a temper tantrum on Truth Social, where he's talking about crooked, crazy people, radical leftists. I mean, Donald Trump is the one who can't be presidential for 5 seconds, and that is exactly why his team wants the mics muted during the debate. Also, the fact that a crowd member chanted "lock him up" about Tim Walz, who is one of the sweetest people ever, I mean, that is the definition of weaponizing your justice system.
Whining at people for telling a joke instead of trying to persuade them that she deserves to be their president. I'm sick of people like that.
Again, Donald Trump is the one that whines all the time. J.D. Vance is a shell of a human who is regurgitating talking points rather than actually engaging with any of these topics. The J.D. Vance of 5 years ago would hate J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance then uses this typical Republican line, but it just doesn't quite land. Watch.
Now, Kamala Harris has run her entire campaign on the idea that she's joyful. But ask yourself, are you better off than you were 4 years ago?
Yeah, we were in the middle of the COVID crisis 4 years ago. We were all quarantining at home amid mass deaths in America, as Aaron Rupar says. I just want to reiterate, J.D. Vance is a shell of a human being who only knows how to regurgitate what Daddy Trump tells him to say. He never actually engages with these talking points, and I firmly believe that the J.D. Vance of 5-6 years ago would be disgusted with the shell of a human being that he's turned into. He goes on stage, and he rattles off a bunch of talking points that Daddy Trump wants him to, and none of them are true. We went through this video, and we responsibly fact-checked everything J.D. Vance said, from his wild remarks about overdoses to stuff that he said about Kamala Harris being more divisive than Donald Trump, and I hope you appreciate that. If you did, all that I ask is that you leave a like, comment a blue heart, hit that subscribe button so you can be a part of this beautiful community that we're building heading into this high-stakes election, but most importantly, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.